All right, so we are officially at our July Lunch and Learn. We took a 1-month hiatus, so it's so great to see faces and names on in the Zoom today. We have a really awesome panel that is going to talk with us just about what they're doing in their conference and some of the exciting things that are happening. And I'm super excited to just share what's happening. And then I also want to end with some things towards the end, but I'm going to say it at the beginning. We are now taking all of these lunch and learns. You all know that we've been recording them. We've been putting them on YouTube. We're actually now on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So I need all of you guys to like it because we're not trending yet. But in each one of the follow-ups, we'll just make sure that everyone knows that, because if you're like me, I love to listen when I am actually on a walk. So if you don't have time to actually watch and listen, you can walk your dogs or do some chores around the house or whatever and listen to all the great things that have been said. I think we're almost on a full year of these lunch and learns. So super excited today to turn it over to, Erica, I'm just going to turn it over to you because you've been my guiding post in this, and let you kind of introduce your panel. And I don't even need to share my screen, actually. I'm just going to let you roll with it. And you are on mute.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Paige, and thank you to the NAI Rise Committee for giving us the opportunity to share about the progress and future of the California Pacific Conference's Senior Women Leaders Council. Let me go ahead and get this PowerPoint started. There we go. We have myself and Rouse from Westcliff University, who's the Associate Director of Athletics and Senior Women Leader. And then we also have our amazing Commissioner, Dawn Ott, from the California Pacific Conference joining us today. We are, as I said, we are so excited to share about the progress and future of the Senior Women Leaders Council and the work we've been engaging in over the last year, and how we're striving to optimize the SWL designation within the conference. It's truly such an honor to connect with everyone today. We have a lot of information to share, including key factors in starting the SWLC, our Cal Pac SWLC constitutional bylaw, our mission and vision statements, and highlighting how we structure our meetings. And we'll also outline our objectives and the outcomes from our inaugural year, introduce the Cal Pac SWL designation description recommendations, review our timeline from year one, and look ahead at some of our future initiatives. Our hope today is to provide you with as much information as possible should you want to start an SWLC or something similar with your conference if you haven't done so already. Now, we've preemptively dropped our contact information and several links into the chat, which we'll be referencing throughout the presentation.
Our Cal Pac SWL Council is composed of amazing women from all 13 of our institutions. So as you can see, our roles, responsibilities, and jobs are all very different, ranging from coach to instructor to administrator. Without each woman's commitment, persistence, patience, and hard work, this council would not be where we are today. The most important thing I'd like to point out is the fact that all institutions had SWLs designated this past year. There was some turnover and transition within the designation that we did have to work through, but the commitment to push through and welcome new faces with an eagerness to learn together has really helped us build a strong foundation. You'll also notice that UC Merced doesn't have an SWL currently listed. However, they had Stephanie Grace through April this past year. She was the first elected vice chair, and they're in the process of backfilling her role right now. The Cal Pac SWLC executive team has 4 elected officials. Each officer is elected to serve a 2-year term, and per our bylaw, it may be renewed once. We have a chair, vice chair, and co-recorder positions. This co-recorder position came about because the SWL position at the University of Antelope Valley is actually a co-SWL position where Crystal and Joy share the designation and responsibilities. This is just another example of how this is not a one-size-fits-all situation, and there are ways to make it work. Another important thing to note is that our Commissioner, Don Ott, has been fundamental in the SWLC development and is present on all of our calls. This has definitely helped validate our council's existence and has provided consistent support.
There are several key factors that helped us in establishing the Senior Women Leaders Council. And just as Katie mentioned, having our conference commissioners' support has been paramount. Don Ott has been an advocate for this designation from the start, and his vision and leadership initiated the SWLC. And we are very fortunate to have Don join us today. So we wanted to invite him to talk about his experiences with our council and ask him to share some advice for all of you SWLs out there looking to optimize the designation with your conferences. Don?
Well, hi, everybody. It's, I guess the first thing that you do when you're starting an SWL council is you make sure you have Katie and Erica to work with. Those two are absolute all-stars. And gatekeeping is always an important thing to make sure that the leaders that you're working with really know what they're doing and have a passion for it. When the NAI first decided that they were going to make the senior women leader role, not a position, but a role, we decided that we would do it immediately. And the best news that we had there was not only did our directors council support that, but our president's council did. So when we pitched that idea, it wasn't just going to be a committee. We wanted this to be a council. In our governance structure, councils are recommenders. They have authority to write and recommend bylaws that then go through the directors council on to our presidents. So we had high resolution and support from the outcome, or from the very beginning. The council designation was a big deal. And while it looks like it's just a title, it's not. In our place, this is an important group. The other thing that's really amazing about our SWLs is because of the leaders we have, they meet in one way or another, either as an executive group or as a full council monthly, which is more than any other group. As a result, they're organized, as you can see by the presentation you're getting here. And if I had one piece of advice, it's that go ahead and shoot to have a council thing, whatever you want to call it in your conference. I think that's important. Give a voice, and that's what we wanted, was a voice. The second thing is, if I had a cliche, it would be this: water the green spots. And what that means is the people, the tactics that are already working, empower them. Just make sure that the stuff that's strong really gets the fertilizer that it needs. And that's what we've done by empowering and sending to all of the conventions. Katie's gone, Erica's gone, I think Joy went. We've been able to send, I think, 5 or 6 people to that pre-convention training ahead, and we've always chosen someone. Well, we've tried to choose someone from our SWL group to make sure that they got a clearer vision on what's going on. I'm really proud of the work these women have done, and by empowering them, that's why it's being successful. So thanks for being here and for supporting them, and listen closely because they're really smart.
Thank you so much, Don. We really appreciate you being here and sharing that with everyone. Just to add, we'd also be remiss if we did not mention the buy-in from our Cal Pac SWLs themselves and how fundamental that is to getting started. As you saw, they all serve in multiple roles and wear various hats at their institutions, yet they make time in their already very busy schedules to participate in SWLC calls, respond to our communications, and promote the designation on their campuses and in their communities. And other factors that have supported the successful launch of our SWLC have been, as Don mentioned, the frequency and consistency of our meetings, along with the strategic promotion of the designation, such as including an SWL landing page on the conference website.
So Cal Pac Bylaw 4.7 was proposed in June of 2022, and it was unanimously approved by both the Athletic Directors Council and also by the President's Council. It exemplifies the intentionality in the design of the council, and it's been in effect for over a year now. Our mission and vision statement. So we review our mission and vision statements at the beginning of every meeting. You can find them linked in the chat. Scroll up, you should be able to see all the links there. And as we present these statements in our meetings, we ask all attendees to keep these points in mind throughout our time together. These statements were created with the input of all SWLs in our council, and every topic added to our meeting agendas ties into one or more of the 7 bullet points found in the vision statement.
So for our meeting structure, the SWLC executive team meets on the 3rd Wednesday of every odd numbered month, and the full council meets on the even numbered months. So as Dawn mentioned, there are senior women leaders meeting every month, and that regularity has been really valuable in our development and our advancement. We also wanted to provide you with an example of our Zoom meeting agendas, and this sample is from our last full council meeting this past May. So we always begin with introductions, followed by calling the meeting to order and reviewing the SWLC's mission and vision. And this usually takes less than 5 minutes. Then we dedicate 10 minutes of our calls for Dawn to provide conference updates, so we're looped in on the latest happenings. We spend the bulk of our meetings, which is anywhere from about 30 to 40 minutes, discussing the slated agenda items for that month. And as you can see, May covered the designation description and this NAI Lunch and Learn presentation. We also like to incorporate a 5 to 10 minute segment either at the beginning of our calls or at the end of our meetings called Tell Us Something Good. And this is where we create space to collectively celebrate one another's successes and just share out something good going on in our lives. And then before adjourning, we open up the meeting for input and ideas from our members, and then we conclude our calls by reviewing important upcoming dates, which always do include the forthcoming NAI Lunch and Learn series info. Lastly, we assign a maximum of 3 action items to leave the group with on every call. So for this meeting in particular, one of our action items was to send back input and additions or edits to the designation description in a week's time. And another example of an action item from a call early in the year was for our SWLs to schedule a meeting with their athletics director to open up the conversation about the designation. Overall, with everyone's busy schedules, we try to be mindful in keeping action items practical, and we strive to keep all meetings to 1 hour. Now, I also want to mention just how much I love these meetings and getting to connect with and learn from all of the phenomenal senior women leaders in our conference. And I know Katie's mentioned similar sentiments as well. You know, we feel so inspired after these calls, especially since we know that we are working towards something bigger than ourselves. And getting the opportunity to collaboratively lay the foundation for this designation with our conference is really special. Now, after establishing our mission, vision, and meeting structure, we wanted to set goals for the SWLC's first year. So to assist us in doing this, the executive team sent a 5-question survey to SWLs via Google Forms. We asked them how SWLs would like to see the council work collaboratively towards conference growth and stability. What were the top 3 things they wanted to see the council achieve during its first year? What the council could do to support SWLs on their respective campuses? If they'd received any pushback regarding the role. And we asked for ideas for how the conference and the SWLC could track and hold member institutions accountable for successfully implementing the designation. We collected a range of responses, and the feedback and insight presented both differences and similarities in experiences across the conference. Therefore, based on the responses, we identified 3 main overarching themes, which allowed us to formulate a game plan for the first year. So we set 3 main objectives to focus on that we felt also complemented our mission and vision statements. The first objective was to provide and promote professional development opportunities for our SWLs, both internally and externally. Second was to further promote the designation to presidents, ADs, student athletes, staff, campus community, and surrounding communities, and work towards creating a national presence. And the third objective was, based upon the NAI's published role responsibilities, create a Cal Pac SWL designation description to provide some continuity to the role across the conference's membership.
So there were many outcomes for each objective that Erica just spoke on. And in addition to what you see here on the screen, for the first objective, we also promoted, participated in, and discussed the monthly NAI Lunch and Learn series. We offered leadership opportunities to co-host monthly Cal Pac Win Zoom calls and had our conference commissioner provide updates to the SWLC at every meeting. For the second objective, we also had SWLs in attendance at NAI convention and were invited to AD council meetings. We had Cal Pac SWLs highlighted in Cal Pac Win sponsored panel discussions. We also encouraged simple ways to promote the designation. We sent the SWLC meeting reminders and minutes, not only to the SWLs, but also to the athletic directors in our conference, so they could also see the work we were doing throughout the year. Thank you, Crystal and Joy, because they always remember to do that. And we also completed and submitted the SWL designation description recommendations to the Cal Pac AD Council during its June 2023 conference. For the third objective, this was recently finished, presented, and approved, and it's been added as an amendment to bylaw 4.7. So we'll stop sharing this PowerPoint briefly and share the actual designation description recommendation with you. So as we continued to meet, there was still this underlying, but what do I do now that I'm designated as SWL? We recognized and discussed that not all institutions are the same. What works on my campus might not work for another. We shared some of the things that we were doing individually and some things that we could be doing better, and thought that we could collectively come up with ideas for some of our institutions who were struggling to learn from other institutions who were optimizing this role on their campus. So using the NAI SWL role responsibilities, we created the SWL designation description, which includes a detailed list of recommendations and ideas for how these responsibilities could successfully be implemented on each campus. We've listed tangible and real day-to-day examples of each responsibility as a starting point for how to implement it. It's intended for both SWLs and ADs to utilize as a tool and resource, and also serves to provide consistency across the conference. We are very proud of this document and are so happy to say that it's now linked as an official document on our conference website. It's also linked in the chat if you want to review or reference it, since we won't be going through it in its entirety.
And as Katie mentioned, this designation description document serves as a starting point for integrating SWLs more fully in Cal Pac athletics departments. It's intended to support both athletics directors and senior women leaders in collaboratively defining the designation on their respective campuses and successfully optimizing the role while leveraging each SWL's strengths. Additionally, we aim for these recommendations to help Cal Pac ADs in their initial SWL selection process and support those stepping into the role for the first time by offering insights into what this designation looks like across the conference, while also supporting them in navigating conversations pertaining to accepting the role. So, based on the NAI's published senior women leaders responsibilities, as noted in bold in this document, Cal Pac SWL functions can include, but are not limited to, the following.
First, communicate regularly with the athletics director, not only for leadership development, but also to consult on major departmental and university initiatives. This could look as simple as attending athletics department meetings and providing SWL updates, or as complex as having sport oversight. There are many variations to how this responsibility can be effectively implemented, but we recognize that if you're a coach serving as the SWL, having sport oversight might be a conflict of interest. So you'll see many ideas listed here where our institutions can find what works best for them.
Okay, for participating in providing leadership and guidance in the area of Title IX and gender equity planning for the overall department to include both men's and women's sports. This could mean an SWL could be responsible for connecting and collaborating with the campus's Title IX coordinator quarterly to ensure timely annual trainings on Title IX issues and changes. And it could also mean that the SWL would support the athletics director in collaboration regarding the equitable planning for the department in conjunction with Title IX's laundry list.
looking at assisting the athletics director and senior management with strategic planning processes and decision-making for the athletics department. This could look like asking to join your athletics director at a meeting with senior university management.
For participating in budget development and significant financial decisions for the athletics department's operations and initiatives, we provided recommendations such as engaging in conversations relating to budget development and financial decisions, and or reviewing the EADA and NAI ROA reports annually with the athletics director.
To advocate for student athletes' well-being while also serving as a mentor and resource for direct reports and other athletic staff members, we recommend that the SWL would meet with each sports team at the beginning of the year, maybe at orientation or perhaps during a team study hall, but find an opportunity where student athletes on campus will get to know who you are. We also recommend finding out who your conference's SAC reps are on campus, because you'll be connecting one leadership council to another and providing student athletes with a direct connection to a woman leader on your campus.
And for the NAI's additional functions as assigned by the athletics director section, we added recommendations such as Cal Pac SWL's required attendance at SWLC meetings and events, SWL serving as the site administrators at home competitions, and or SWL supporting athletics directors by collaborating on areas of improvement and success for the department.
So our hope is that you can find one or two things on this list that will work for you and your conference to optimize the designation. This document will also be available to you after the presentation, and we do hope that you use it as a resource. We'd also love to hear from you on the things that you do. This is certainly not an exhaustive list. And we'd love to hear nationwide as an association as to how these responsibilities are being implemented on different campuses.
Now, before we wrap up today, we wanted to give you an overview of this past year's timeline to highlight how we managed our calendar to get where we are today. So in March of 2022, that's when we connected for the very first time ever as SWLs over Zoom. And we also elected that executive team during the call. Then in the next 2 months, that's when we crafted the mission and vision statements and the Cal Pac constitutional bylaw. In June, we proposed the bylaw to the AD Council, which received unanimous approval. July was when we sent out the SWL intro survey and established our objectives for year one. From August through December, we held our monthly meetings and we worked towards achieving our goals. January 2023 provided us the opportunity to report to both the athletic directors and president's councils. And we were given the responsibility of voting on Cal Pac representatives to attend the NAI Rise Governance Academy. In February, the Rise Governance Academy attendees were announced, and SWLs participated in various National Girls and Women in Sports Day events. March through May, the SWLC created the SWL designation description you just saw, and we also appointed Katie as our new vice chair. And last month, the designation description was approved and added as an addendum to Cal Pac Bylaw 4.7. And now, this month, we are presenting to you all on this call about the SWLC. We're presenting to the Cal Pac Student Athlete Council about the designation during their leadership summit. And we're hosting our first ever in-person SWLC summit on July 25th at Soka University.
So what's next for the Cal Pac SWLC? Looking forward, you heard Erica just talk about it. We're going to be meeting for our inaugural one-day summit later this month. And that's where we will look to establish additional objectives for the upcoming 2023-2024 year. We will be looking to create a means for tracking and obtaining data specific to Cal Pac SWL's workload, compensation, and responsibilities on each campus. We will be creating surveys to distribute to both Cal Pac ADs and SWLs to ensure the designation is successfully implemented on each campus and distributing those annually. And the executive leadership team's 2-year term will conclude at the end of this academic year. Therefore, new appointments or renewals for the chair, vice chair, and recorder must take place.
So our final thoughts. We wanted to leave you all with some final thoughts for optimizing the SWL designation with your conference. And the first is communication and collaboration are essential. Just like in everything else that we do, communicating and collaborating with the various stakeholders in your conference and on your campuses about the SWL designation is vital. And next, remember to be patient, but also persistent. Good things take time. And while we did encounter some speed bumps over the last year, we've always reminded ourselves that this is a marathon and not a sprint, even though we do want to run that marathon in record-breaking time. I mean, it's taken over a year to get where we are today as a council, and we're so incredibly proud of the work we've done up to this point. But we still have so much more to do. We've been patient with the process, but even more importantly, we have remained proactively persistent.
So we encourage you to lean in, connect with other SWLs in your conference, find out who they are, get to know each other, create a space where you can meet or just say hi, but realize that this is an opportunity to connect with others. Create a safe space for SWLs to be open and honest in terms of struggles and successes, and then work to support each other through that. And lastly, promote the designation. We've all been very intentional about promoting the designation. When I introduce myself professionally, or even on a Zoom call from someone with the university, I say, hi, I'm Katie, an associate AD and senior woman leader. So we've all added this designation to our email signatures. You can add it to your LinkedIn profile, your staff directory on your website. You can have your SID post a graphic highlighting you as the SWL at your institution. Our Cal Pac Conference website ran a release promoting the addition of our SWL Council to its governance structure. But take any opportunity that you can to really promote the designation and educate others on the significance of this role.
We really hope that you're able to take away a few things from today's call to support you in optimizing the designation with your conferences. Again, we've dropped our contact information in the chat, and we would love to connect with you further. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Now, before we open up for questions, just like in our Cal Pac SWLC meetings, we wanted to leave you all with a couple of action items as you move into the start of the academic year.
So the first action item for you all is promote the designation, like I was just mentioning. If you haven't already done so, add Senior Woman Leader to your email signature, to your staff directory profile, to your business card, LinkedIn, social media platforms. And if you've already done all of that, be creative and find another way to continue to promote the designation.
And your second action item is before our next Lunch and Learn series in August, reach out and connect with the other SWLs in your conference. Schedule a Zoom call so you can all meet one another and either start or continue the conversation about the SWL designation with your colleagues. And maybe even start holding space for discussions around forming an SWLC or something similar. And we hope you're going to take us up on these action items, because we are definitely going to be asking about it in the chat during next month's call. So we look forward to hearing what you all have done. Again, thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you to the NAI Rise Committee for giving us the chance to share a little bit about the Cal Pac SWLC. And at this time, we wanted to open it up for questions. Let's see what we have, if we have anything in the chat.
I had one question for you all. Do you record your sessions when you all are together? Because I think there's a lot of great materials. If you were willing to share, we could definitely add some of your resources to our SWL landing page on the NAI resources.
Well, we haven't currently recorded any of them just because we want it to be a safe space for everyone to talk about their experiences. So we haven't recorded anything at this time, but maybe what we can do is we can provide links. Anyone's welcome to join our calls. I mean, we've got them open to, if we have other SWLs or commissioners or anybody who wants to join in and join us for the calls, we're completely open to doing that, as well as providing you any of the documents and whatnot that we've shared in the chat. We can send those over to you as well.
Perfect. I know there's some other commissioners on this call. I don't know if you all have any, specific questions too for Dawn. Not to, put anybody on the spot, but noticing that there are several commissioners that, have you done this in your conference, and what are some key takeaways maybe that you'd like to take away from their presentation and tie it into your conference? Or there's also some other Rise members on. Would love to hear a few more questions on some of the other ways that we can help with what they're doing on their conference, at their conference.
This is Tori Renda. I'm with the Southern States. We have been very active in developing the SWLs in our conference. I really appreciated your designation page. I think that can be really helpful for a lot of new athletic directors or smaller schools to figure out the role for their SWL. And I will be sharing that with our committee as well as our athletic directors.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad it's helpful. And also, as you all go through it, if you, like Katie mentioned, if you have any additions, if you have something where you're like, oh, this would be great to add to that, we would love to add it to ours, because we're open to adding different, ideas to it as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Tori. That's great to hear.
I have a question for Katie and Erica. Just wondering what kind of speed bumps you guys faced during your process.
Great question. Well, one of the things that I had mentioned was there was some turnover within the SWLs. So somebody would start as the SWL on their campus, and then, for whatever reason, they're no longer at that campus. So now there's a new SWL. And that's kind of where the conversation to, like, what am I doing, and how do we as the consistent pieces in our conference assist these new faces? That's where that conversation led into the designation description, because we thought this is going to happen. I mean, in athletics, people change positions, they changed institutions, they leave. There's a million different reasons why the role could change. And so this at least provides a little bit of consistency, and it just provides maybe a starting point for, where do I even get started? If I'm new to the school, I'm new to this role, I'm new as an SWL. So I'd say turnover, and transition was definitely a big speed bump that we had to figure out how to work through.
And I would also add that it's one that we're still facing, and that's just the participation on the calls. Everyone's so busy that we're not always able to get every single SWL present on our monthly calls. So that's something that we're working towards trying to achieve. And it's really important to us that we have every SWL and institution represented on these calls, because that's where input's being provided. And all of our institutions are so different that it's important that we know how what we're talking about affects that institution. So getting everyone on every call is something that we're striving to achieve as well. But we have had a really great core group of SWLs who are there month after month. So yeah, great question, Ted.
Okay.
Not to put Dawn on the spot. I don't know. Is Dawn still on here? Dawn, I don't know. Are there any speed bumps that you, as the commissioner, have faced?
Yeah, plenty. The biggest thing is that not everybody has an Erica, not everybody has a Katie. So because we have a wide spectrum of people in the role, sometimes some schools haven't really jumped in and honored the role as much as we would like. But you can remember some of our phone calls where we then had the post Zoom conversation with somebody that was trying to make it grow. And in a lot of ways, those were some of the sweetest times, because we were able then to really build in individually into the leaders that were on that campus, trying to figure out what they can do. Our athletic directors, by and large, have been overwhelmingly supportive of the idea, if not the execution. And that's really been the thing I've been seeing, is that while we all agree to the importance, we're not all as equally successful in getting the right people in the right spots. So that's one thing. But because we have a Katie and a Joy and a Erica and I can go down through a list of several really strong ones. That's why we are where we are today. And all I can continue to tell you is that we're not done beating this drum or building this thing. So I'm glad that we have such capable people working on it.
I'll jump in here. Great job on the presentation. A shout out to all the Governance and Leadership Academy participants and contributing back. So if you could just, by the way, Darnell Smith, Texas A&M University San Antonio Athletics Director, if you all could speak to how, in your opinion, would you measure success in this particular role within an institution, let's just say within like the first year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing in our upcoming summit, because we do want to make this intentional and measurable. I know Erica and I have spoke about using the designation description kind of as a base starting point. And when we send out those surveys, just, basic asking, number one, are you doing any of this? Are you doing any of it or none of it or different things? And then if yes, how do you feel like you've been effective? Have you been, have you received the support that you needed to be able to live out these items effectively? Or if no, why not? Why haven't you done any of these things? Is it because you haven't asked? Is it because your AD hasn't bought into this? So those are some of the things that we're going to be discussing this summer, because it is very important for us to be able to look across all 13 of our very unique campuses and make sure that the SWL designation is being implemented successfully, but success on one campus might look different than the other. So trying to find that baseline of where that overlaps is going to be the priority.
As well as one of the things with the survey that we want to achieve is we also want to send athletics directors the surveys, because we want to make sure that our SWLs are, feedback is huge, and that's great for measuring our success as not only a council, but as individual. I think making sure that the SWLC they feel it's serving the conference in a best way possible, as well as the SWLs on each campus are serving in the role and optimizing it in their eyes. So I think those two surveys are going to be something that will be measurable for us in the coming years. In terms of this past year in measuring our success, well, we will be reviewing our past year or this last year during our summit. So we'll be able to talk about that and discuss that. But I think between Katie and I and Dawn and the executive team and Crystal and Joy, we've looked at the things that we've achieved and where those objectives are and what we've hit. And we're pretty happy with where we're at so far, but that's also why we've said, hey, we've still got a lot more work to do. This is just the beginning.
And Erica, if I could to just jump in on that too, one of the things that I observed last year when I tried to keep my mouth shut on stuff was that not everybody participated. And so there was a different layer of expectation and buy-in at some of our schools. And I tolerated it just because I was giving everybody autonomy. But one of the goals I've set out this year with our Student Athlete Council, with our SWA Council, even with our athletic directors and coaches, is if you're not there, I'm going to follow up with you. And the reason is not to be, I don't know, it's not an attendance taking thing, but I value everybody's voice so much, and I really do, that if you're not present, you can't influence. And I need Erica's voice. I need the voice of a school that wasn't there last week. And I need to hear all of that so that we can continue to make it valuable to everybody. So I'm going to do more accountability with our athletic directors and with the directly with the council, just to say, hey, we missed you and I expect you there next time. You know, that kind of thing. It won't be just a, sorry, we missed you because you had a dentist appointment. It'll be, maybe you should reschedule your dentist appointment because this is a standing meeting, that kind of thing.
I appreciate all that. Thank you.
Great questions, everyone. Anyone else? Well, I really appreciate your all's time. You guys have done some amazing work. I'm so impressed, and I would love to share on behalf of the NEI anything on our landing page that you're willing to share. We get a lot of questions, you know, does anybody even have the definition of all the different duties? And so I think you've identified a lot more opportunities for the senior women leaders to get involved with. And so pass it along. We will share it. As always, we will record this. I do want to just make one little announcement if no one else has any other further questions.
That I'd switch to the next slide.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. I do want to just share with you that we are going to, at the national office, and I don't know if Lori Thomas is still on, but we are going to be doing a revamp of Champions of Character. And as we all know, it's the core of who we are. It intertwines with the values and your mission on your campuses, and everyone kind of does it a little bit differently. But we need to take a look and refresh what we're doing and re-energize our 5 core values and live them and walk the walk and talk the talk. So right now we're obtaining a lot of different opportunities to tell the story of the voice of the coach and the student athletes, of how they intertwine beyond their sport, off and on their court. And we have Nick Rule, who will be giving the update not only on Champions of Character, but just really taking and understanding the scorecard. We want to make the scorecard more about who you are versus just a checklist, that it really does mean something to you. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us to really learn how we're going to reinvigorate it, and then how you can really take it and maximize your campus and showcase, you know, the opportunities for recruits and retention on what you're doing through Champions of Character. And I had mentioned this before as well. We are taking all these presentations and we're putting them on Spotify and on Apple Podcast. So we would love to have you all connect. If you just look up NAI, you might not see us first because we're not trending yet. We just actually took all the recordings and turned them into MP3s. And if you all could definitely go there and like it, listen to it, reinforce what the ladies and Dawn have said today, and take other topics that maybe we've done in the past. They are all on there now. We have a fantastic intern. She is on here and she is knocking it out of the park, Natalia Harth, and she is helping us do all of these assets right now. There she is. There's her beautiful face. She's at Park University here in Missouri, and she's really helping us just put more light and shining your voices through another medium. So always welcome to ideas for you to help you all grow and learn and share together. So I leave you all with just have a wonderful day. Try not to heat up too much. I know a lot of us are in some kind of heat fest, so stay in the AC and drink some water. All right.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys. You're awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.